way. It was such a point of power for them in that last game. So they're taking away the Maokai.
So they've stuck to the bans.
Yep.
And they will leave the Kennen open. And now they're saying, Gen.G, will you pick the Kennen?
And where does the Draven go? Does Hansama lock it in again? Because they did manage to get a small early lead in that bottom lane, even if Hansama wasn't on the receiving end of it.
The Ksante will be prioritized once more. Of course, it is a very flexible champion for Gen.G. We already know that, as demonstrated in the last game. Now, this gives G2 a lot of options. Like, do they want to prioritize the Draven here to guarantee themselves a winning bot side of the map? Do they feel that something else is instead more important? Because their expectation was probably that the Kennen would be locked in, and it seems that they are just going to respond and get themselves the Kennen.
I feel like blind Draven is really, really risky. You know, they could go for it, but I do think there are lanes you can draft into it to actually really neutralize. So I don't expect that from G2. You know, I'm expecting Kennen. I'm expecting potentially the jungle power pick here for Yike.
You know, they might do Zeri. Just take that away from Peyz, remove as many options for him. Instead, they're going to prioritize the Poppy. You expect this to be jungle. Yike says that, you know what, I already had a great game on it. What can you now do, Peter? Even if you go for something like a Wukong, which is something that he played a lot during playoffs, the Poppy still does very well into it.
Yeah, I mean, Gragas it's great against, so Poppy, the Wukong it's great against, Nidalee it's great against. If they take away the Zeri, it's great against that. Like, there's so many champions that you're going to be able to deny with. So it is another early game jungler here. This one a bit of a different look. I wonder if they would actually be willing to just slam a Renekton or something along those lines and just play Elise Renekton topside and try to really go at Broken Blade here on this Kennen.
It is something that Peanut has played. Like, he's got 5 games on it, 80% win rate across the course of 2023. So he's very comfortable on the champ, and it looks like Gen.G will be going towards their AD carry next. The Jinx locked in, of course. Zeri's still available for G2 if they want it. They could go the Draven as well.
There's no way that it's not a Draven into the Jinx. That is a matchup that Hansama is incredibly confident on. And now we'll be moving into the second phase. So now G2 can really pinch the support pool, which in game 2, when they struggled so much, it was because of how impactful Delight was on the Blitzcrank. I'm curious as to what they will now remove. I imagine Thresh and Tahm Kench are 2 priority picks you want to take away from Delight.
I will say, though, you know, Gen.G could run back a similar last 2 picks, and it's so hard for Draven to deal with that. This is not Azael. If you draft Malphite Rel, like even if you deny some of these, okay, so Malphite's gonna get banned out, you've got to recognize that full send on the dive is gonna be so problematic. So I do like that they're banning out the Malphite. If he's willing to play it into the Kennen, playing Malphite into Draven is like S tier. Draven cannot deal with that. Even if he survives the initial ult, you have the massive attack speed slow on him, can really be problematic. So I do think they have to take that away. They could look towards another tank, you know, banning out something like along the lines of the Sion that they did earlier.
Or Gragas.
Yep, Sion or Gragas I think are both good bans. But it does mean there's obviously going to be kind of the pick of the litter for Delight.
Oh, so by banning
they're going to take Thresh.
The Blitzcrank, they're saying, hey, we want the Thresh. Are you going to ban it away? What are you going to do here? The gauntlet has been thrown. How will Gen.G respond? And the Thresh will now be banned. Okay, so huge credit to G2. I think that they've come in with a very clear game plan as the series has evolved.
Do they go Leona would be really interesting to me, because that's one of the kind of the primary picks.
Problem, right?
It is definitely, but it would mean that you're very much on the back foot, right? Like you can go TK, but if you're playing TK Jinx into Leona Draven, like you're sitting under your tower, right?
Stacks for the Draven as well.
Exactly.
The Tahm Kench, so it can be very tricky for Gen.G to play that matchup, but would give protection. Draven Soraka.
A European special.
It is a European special. We used to see this as an answer to Lucian Nami in Europe.
And Soraka is such a strong laner. I feel like so many people really underestimate the laning power of it. They think only about the later stages where you're healing it up, but you can go a couple points Q early and really run lanes like this. And I think Soraka is heavily advantaged into a Lulu as far as that support matchup. As long as you're hitting the Qs, the shielding isn't really going to do that much for you.
Soraka also makes a lot of sense in the context of Gen.G. Your options are Tahm Kench or Lulu. And in both instances, as you already said, Soraka does very well. So by going for that blind pick, now they can guarantee a counter pick for Caps, and they won't have to play that game of where is the Ksante going.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really interesting. I do like the draft a lot for G2, you know, even much more than their first game around. It's looking like it's going to be just Tristana top as the answer, and I do think this is smart for a couple reasons. We saw that the matchup worked fine for him in game number 1, but also I really did think it was problematic that they basically had 1 damage source in that last game that they just lost. So this does give you double marksman. This gives you 2 champions to really punch through that front line, because Poppy is not the easiest champion to get through, and especially with the Soraka behind her, that's going to be even more difficult.
Oh, G2 ran out of that composition. Are we going to get the changed Azir?
I mean, I think Azir could make sense. You know, I think
Azael.
Azael could make a lot of sense.
Okay.
You know, this is a champion that you could potentially stack against. The only problem I will say, Ksante, really does put on some pressure, right? So every time you're actually settling down there with the Q, he can have his Q ready to actually just go in on you and try to deny those early stacks. Yes, you can get some with the breath, but it can be difficult if you're getting pressured every time you drop your E on the minions. Some of these early game melee champions can just jump right in on top of the Azael and really mitigate how many stacks you're getting early.
There's always the flexibility of Tristana mid as well, which seems to be what Gen.G are going for here. Doran's going to take the Ksante up towards the top lane. Chovy will be piloting the Tristana.
Yeah, and that should be locked in now. We will see the Tristana mid. Again, Chovy, no stranger to this champion. We saw it in the LCK finals, something he's very proficient at, and something that he often pairs with those AP junglers. I will say that when you kind of look at the comp in its entirety, Gen.G's engage is not the strongest, while they do have some disengage tools with things like the Lulu and the Tristana. And overall, pretty...
Shaking those trades. Of course, later on in the game, you can just get to that point where, yeah, you can win out on the trades with just the E, but that is not the case for the first lot of levels here.
We're jumping into game 4. After the first 2 games, it very much felt like that the series was done and dusted. G2 were able to crawl back in game 3 after what was, quite frankly, a couple of mistakes from Gen.G. They're going to reassess, reevaluate, they showcase their respect towards G2, and we'll see how things pan out here in game 4. Bit of fun fact trivia for Caps. When he initially debuted in the Challenger Series, Aurelion Sol, the old version, he secured a pentakill on it, and is really what drew a lot of attention to many fans of the player before joining the LEC. So it's great to see him back on one of the original champions that he made a name for himself on.
Absolutely. I'm still waiting for who he's Aurelion Sol support. I'm sure it's going to be coming out.
In the finals.
Yeah. Yeah, XVR.
Looking forward to that one. No demolish, importantly, for the Tristana in the mid lane. Often we do see that to try and continue to take the plates in the early game, but we have also seen Tristanas just get the push and then start roaming around the map, looking for those top dives. Broken Blade can be a little bit squishy on the Kennen. G2 will invade here. Peanut was sitting at his Razor Beaks. There is a ward, no sweepers for G2, but Peanut kind of just has to give up the pressure. Might look to try and steal away one of these. He steps forward into the face of Yike. The smite goes down, and Yike secures the Razor Beaks to kick off the game.
Yeah,
Yike himself level 2 as well.
Yike's going to get the entire camp. Peanut got absolutely nothing there, so that is definitely problematic. But there is a cost to this. Look at how far away Hans was because they actually went for this invade, so it was a hard push on bot side. Yike is going to spot him out again.
The problem is Peyz can move. Peyz and Delight just push the wave immediately, and they're going to try and move across here. You can see Delight.
He's gone, though. He's fine.
Gets out. In the end, Peanut just delayed by a little bit. Yike will be the same. He can E to one of these minions. Does exactly that. And even though Chovy was able to get the push in the mid lane, Yike can work his way up towards the top side.
Also going to quickly check bot lane. So the good news for Peyz and Delight is that while Hansama did lose some experience after sacrificing some wave farm to the tower, that's not going to be the same case for Peyz. He won't be able to get that gold, but in terms of experience, the bot lane of Gen.G should still have the advantage. Yep,
about to hit level 2 here on this next minion, so G2 gonna have to back it up. You know, didn't get the XP on all of those melees as some of them did die to the tower. So are going to be able to use this for a little bit of pressure now.
And the unfortunate reality is G2's bot wave is not in a great position. Mickey trading very aggressively at level 1 here.
Ooh, aggressively.
There's the zap, there's the heal, but Mickey's ignited, has to flash away. Stepped way too far forward. Maybe thought that Hansan was going to kill a minion so he'd get 2 and then he could keep stepping forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just kind of like a little bit out of whack with where the state of the lane is because they miss those minions. It can really kind of throw you off sometimes. You know, he did hit that Q on Delight, and he just wanted to chase for the trade. If they were equal levels, that would have been fine, but the spells are going to come back up for Lulu. You know, he turns around on you, and that can be really problematic.
All the summoner spells now gone for Mickey, and it means that a small advantage already gained for the Gen.G bot lane in exchange for Yike finding an early advantage in the jungle matchup. But that's not really going to translate into a huge amount in terms of the isolated jungle matchup.
Yeah.
Level 3 secured for Yike, same for Peanut. We'll be a little bit behind in XP, but nothing too dramatic.
But I will say, you know, if you can actually just track this Elise on the Poppy, it's so important for these kind of matchups. When you are playing a champion like Poppy, your job is just to mitigate what the Elise wants to do. So as long as you're just following around, if you both don't farm at all, that's great. Like, you are going to have value later on in the game. He is not. He's got to get things done. So Yike is just going to stay around here harassing. You can see that trade is rough for Caps, but you know, giving back pretty well on that trade. He's going to be at least able to get some stacks.
And with Broken Blade having the push in the top side, Yike will have some support. Peanut tries to put some damage down, but Yike now has Smite and will secure the Scuttle Crab. Peanut works his way towards the mid lane. Singularity down from Caps to try and clear out some of this wave.
Caps is quite low on mana and health, but does still have 2 biscuits in his inventory. And also has the TP, so he shouldn't be in too much danger. Chovy can push confidently knowing that his support jungle are in the bot side river, ready to cover him. He's not going to be too concerned about the Soraka, who's still only level 2. Miky trying to get a bit of XP back in mid.
Well, and importantly, Caps has actually just pretty much stayed even on farm. There's extra minions for him to farm as long as he can keep this up. You really heavily outscale that Tristana. You know, the early levels are often the most difficult times in dealing with the low mana pool that Azael does have. So we'll see, you know, when Caps wants to base, he has the TP, what sort of early buy he's going to be able to get.
I was really worried for G2 there as Peanut, Delight, and Peyz, along with Chovy, all had prior, which made it very easy to contest this bot side of the jungle. Yike was in a bit of danger, but Hansama willing to sacrifice a bit of farm and say, you know what, I'll move up and actually go for this fight. Means that Gen.G will back away and no camps will be stolen. Yike still should be clear to clear out this bot side of the map. Gen.G though, considering in game 1 when they played against the Draven, they were getting tower dived at level 2, I think that they're pretty happy with the state of bot lane right now.
But Peanut's moving across once again. Has the vision in there. Broken Blade looking for the trade onto Doran. Does have that Q3. Peanut's going to try and step forward towards this blue buff. The smite down. Yike steals it away. Peanut about 4 health too early.
Yike has been getting every one of those. He got the Scuttle, he got the Raptor, he gets the blue buff. So Peanut has really been neutralized in this early game. I love the level 1 plan. They go for that invade. Chovy trying to get aggressive, but I mean, let's be honest, it's double Cull stacking up here on the other side.
He's got the Falling Star as well, that ultimate available to Caps. Doesn't have the upgraded version. Of course, you need 75 stacks to get that.
Yeah, I mean, Chovy just honestly not having the greatest time in this lane thus far. You know, the farm slightly in his favor, but there's more to pick up for Caps, and I just think you get outscaled so bad. Like, these matchups can really become rough later on against this Azael. The team fighting can be difficult as well, and he's going to be forced to flash here. Has the Buster Shot as well.
Back, and there's the jump. Invests everything to get out, does so well. Had to flash the initial ultimate from the Aurelion Sol, because of course that stuns you if it hits.
But he's got no TP now, and he's in this kind of awkward spot where he didn't go for a super aggressive like setup. He didn't go for Halo Blades. You know, he went for a Cull as his first base, and he's going to be not really getting much done.
And to breathe some hope into the European fans, like, this is a very promising early game state as a collapse comes through for Gen.G.
Try and get away, but Doran dashes forward. Explosive shot, will it be enough? Caps is ticking, but so's Doran. He gets away from the towers, aggro, and Caps doesn't have a way out. No flash left in the end. Doran sweeps him away.
That would have been so close to some of the cooldowns coming up for Caps, though. If his E came back up, he could probably get an execute kill there. Critical first blood grabbed by Gen.G. They knew Caps was getting in way too comfortable of a spot. If you let Azael really get into the groove where he's getting these early levels, he's getting the early mana items and not being pressured, it becomes unassailable. His wave clear goes infinite once you start hitting, you know, level 8, 9, and it's tough to push on this guy.
Yeah, overall, just a great roam. Doran finding that window. Caps using the E early meant that he didn't have it later. If he'd had it up, then he could have been using that while also applying the Q, and that could have potentially gotten the kill onto Doran. But Doran, very aware that, hey, this tower isn't going to... And Caps, he would have to stop himself as now G2 look for a play in bot.
Early flash from Delight, but Yike is here, waiting around the corner. Peyz slow for the second. Steadfast Presence knocks back Delight, and there's nowhere for the Lulu to go. Hansama gifted the kill, and that is huge for the G2 bot lane.
That is a lot of gold picked up for Hansama. I believe it was something like 473 was the payout. And this Draven already starting to get ahead.
I mean, Hans has more gold in pocket than Peyz has total right now. So almost 3,000 gold in pocket here for the Draven, who has never actually gone back to base yet. That is going to be a monstrous first buy. G2 looking really good in this game.
Of course, Gen.G have shown us throughout the course of MSI, throughout the course of the LCK, that they are very good at playing from positions like this, even when they do lose out the early game or start to fall a little bit behind. Their mid-game team fighting is sublime.
I mean, the game is far from over, but I so heavily favor G2's position. You know, I think you heavily outscale in jungle, you heavily outscale in mid. Top lane, you know, it's more down to execution. Bot lane, yeah, there's a scaling advantage on the Lulu Draven side or Lulu Jinx side over this Draven, but Draven is so far ahead, has an early BT, that you almost don't really care. G2 have everything they need, I feel like, to try to snowball this game, and it's just going to be up to if they can really make it happen.
Now, I am a little surprised that G2 didn't bring the Draven down to the Herald. With the Bloodthirst already completed, you would think this is the perfect opportunity to try and force a fight, but perhaps they're concerned around the strength of the Aurelion Sol and the Kennen at this point in the game and saying, you know what, we'll concede this early objective, we'll instead cross-map for the Dragon. We know that we have the push in bot side, and we should be able to secure this largely uncontested. This does, of course, give a window, though, for Gen.G to funnel some gold back into Peyz, or maybe even unlock the mid tower for Chovy.
Delight has no sums. Peyz has the flash and uses it to dash away from Yike as he came for the gank. The bot lane minions should help take that plate. It falls, Hansama gets the gold, and in the end, that's Peyz summonerless, at least in terms of flashes, for the next couple of moments. Caps backs away here. Peanut waiting in the wings. Caps just eats the entire explosive shot and then stays underneath his turret.
The risk of making that play is Peanut has been able to move from the Herald to this bot river, and he is undetected right now. Yike is suspicious, though.
Steadfast presence with movement speed and should be able to get away. Peanut could flash Cocoon, but decides not to on this occasion.
Yeah, has the early tier 2 boots, has that steadfast presence, could be able to get out of there no problem. And we're seeing, you know, even in these early stages, Caps is almost to the point where Chovy jumps in with the explosive shot on him. He just stands and presses Q, and you're kind of out damaging him. And when you hit that point, there's not really much you can do besides just kind of AFK push and then leave the lane, which is really a comfortable spot for Azael. So they're going to use this Herald, try to drop it mid, get some plate gold there on Chovy, and hopefully for them, be able to eventually take away this bastion of safety. But you know, once you hit 9, there's no cooldown on the Q. It's really difficult to just full push and actually pressure Azael under the tower.
Do you know how I was going to say, Azael, coming into this game, armor boots have a lot of value when playing against double AD carry and only in Elise. But I see like the Ionian boots, 2 of them already picked up. I wonder if I'll actually see any armor boots come through from G2. Broken Blade, I thought he'd look for a bit of a trade there, but instead prioritizing clearing the wave. Does have a healthy CS advantage for the time being, but top lane is largely an island, as G2 will now begin the drag.
11 minutes in, gold basically even between these two teams, you know, 300-400, going kind of seesawing. But the first dragon secured as Doran dodges the shuriken in the bush. You can see
Broken Blade doesn't know he's there.
Peanut's on his way up. Doran look with the knockback. There's the all out as well. Broken Blade pops the slicing maelstrom. Does still have the flash, but how are you going to escape from the Elise? Peanut still looking for him. Doran dashes forward, and in the end, Broken Blade holds his summoner.
Yeah, nice little bait there from Doran. Sidesteps the shuriken. That was Broken Blade trying to check, okay, did he finish the recall? He thinks he did. He thinks he went back to base. So he uses the E, and as soon as you use that lightning rush on the minions, that's the go button. There's no way you're going to get out. So smart that he at least held on to the flash, because that is critical if G2 want to continue playing around these dragons and looking for fights.
And Delight and Peyz, great awareness from them. Knew that the cross map was coming. Don't fall prey to any gank from Yike, which means that they will be able to get away to safety, secure that entire wave as well. The good news for Broken Blade is he does have the TP, but a plate will be secured for Doran. As you rightly mentioned, unaware, sidesteps the Q there, as highlighted by our observers, which means that Broken Blade has some information, uses the E to try and clear the wave. Peanut shows up from the river, and Broken Blade doesn't bother committing the flash because he realizes, you know what, there's no point. I'm going to lose my life anyway. I'll do what damage I can. Hands the kill over to the jungler instead. Yep,
uses the ult, clears out the wave. That means there's not going to be any plates off the back of that, so I do think it's worth expending the ult in that situation. Obviously also a much shorter cooldown than that of the flash. So we'll see. G2, you know, in a really good spot. They are down slightly in gold, but in such a good position here already. You know, will Caps just go for like a Rylai's rush? I'm going to be interested, you know, with that Giants belt.
It does look like it.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Rylai's these days. You know, on Azael, although the champion has become less popular, it is such a strong one-item spike. If you just go for this tier straight into Rylai's, you have way more early game power compared to if you're going tier Roa, Archangels, full scaling. So it's a little bit of a middle ground. Yes, your scaling isn't going to be quite as strong as if you do go for, you know, all those options. But this is going to allow him to fight on one item really effectively, actually.
Yep. Now look at all this vision invested topside from Gen.G. Broken Blade really doesn't see anything. But it looks like they're not going to commit to the play. Oh no, hang on a second. Peanut is still hovering around the top side of the map. There is a wave stacking up, and Yike will be spotted, and this should be the dive from Gen.G.
So Broken Blade has the Hextech rocket belt. He dashes in, the slicing maelstrom coming out as well as Doran tanking the turret. Peanut takes half his health. Meanwhile, Yike trying to catch up Chovy as he rotated up towards the top side. The dash back with the all out as Broken Blade now underneath the tower, knocked back with the Entopia strikes, but Doran's tanking it once again, and Broken Blade will get the 1v2. Now Peanut locked up by G2. Yike coming in, Caps here to join the party as well, and that spider can skittle no further. Stumped under the boot of Caps.
Massive kills for G2 on the top side, and Gen.G, I hate to say it, but they're falling apart a little bit in this one. Such an overforce on that dive onto Broken Blade. Chovy getting pushed out of mid at the exact same time. Bot is all G2 as they have the infinite push here with this Bloodthirster Draven. There's nothing Peyz and Delight can do to combat this except just try to farm under their tower. So G2 now are going to be in such a great spot, having pressure in multiple lanes across the map.
Props to Broken Blade. Question marks surrounded his performance coming into this tournament, and holding on to that flash proved dividends in this exchange. It looked like the Gen.G were able to convert that into a kill topside, maybe start funneling more plates into Doran, but because he had that flash, he was able to create space, and then Doran, as you said, Azael, overcommits to the dive. Now Gen.G, while when you look at the gold, it's not that bad, right? Because the Gen.G have been fantastic at securing these early plates, and overall they keep the overall game state in a fairly neutral position, but it feels like the momentum, and as you rightly said, the comps are very quickly swinging in the favor of G2.
This is not, you know, Gen.G's comp is not as extreme as what G2 drafted in game 1 as far as like early game, because they do have that bot lane. But I really do feel like Tristana mid is much more early game than a lot of people do think. Yeah, Tristana can scale, but it is very difficult to play double marksman comps with Tristana is not ahead and actually snowballing the game. Azael is going to make your job a living nightmare. You know, when you're comparing the Poppy to the Elise, being down 400 gold, Poppy's laughing at that point. I think Jinx is going to have a really difficult time team fighting as well. You know, when you're walking into this later on, if you have the upgraded Azael, every fight you just point and click that guy, and he has to run. Like, he can't really stay there and actually compete.
Caps has the upgraded ultimate here, trying to get away from Chovy. Mickey there with a bit of healing as Yike does the Rift Herald. Caps can get back to mid here. Delight trying to team up with his mid laner as the all-out comes out from Doran, but Broken Blade with a slicing mouse can try and turn it back around. Doran very tanky right now, but Yike waiting in the wings. The Entofu not enough. Yike flash, smite, slap as he takes out the Gen.G top laner.
And once again, Doran is punished. He loses his life as he tries to get an all-in onto Broken Blade, but he's able to buy enough time. I believe the ultimate even came out from Mickey to offer assistance, but look at the rockets! Oh. Will sidestep that one, and Broken Blade walks away the victor once more.
Yeah, I think he would have lived either way, but definitely don't want to risk that one. But I gotta say, Yike is kind of running Peanut this game. He has been having a really good performance on the Poppy. Back-to-back games, Peanut going for the early game junglers. Last game on the Nidalee, he had a massive early game advantage, could not convert. This time, really has no advantage on the Elise whatsoever. They're going to be able to even it out as far as the Drakes do go, and we'll see what the next is going to be spawning. So it is Cloud Soul, which can be quite powerful.
Peanut does have flash here, already slow with the Rylai's. Yike looking for a little bit more. Peanut goes up, comes down, flashes the wall, the singularity, and the skies begin to descend. But Peanut with whirling death, the wild growth enough to keep him alive. Doran now trading back onto Yike as Yike continues to step forward here. I think perhaps he needs to start to back away. The Rylai show helping out, but in the end, Peanut, with the support of his team, is able to get out.
So Gen.G hold on to the gold lead for now. Admittedly, a lot of this is sitting on Chovy, securing all those plates in mid, securing that tower. But when you look at bot, jungle, top, advantages in favor of G2. And as you rightly said, Peanut on this Elise has largely been silenced. When you think of Elise, it's a champion that's super proactive on the map, looking to threaten dives, constantly being proactive in the early game. But when you talk about drafts, Azael, how do you play around this bot side? How do you dive with the Jinx Lulu? Do you really dive with the Tristana onto an Aurelion Sol as well? Yeah. The only lane he could really play through is top, and in their second gank attempt, it ends up going short. So this early game is just right now in control of G2, even though it is Gen.G with the gold lead.
Well, and that's why I thought that the level 1 plan from G2 was actually so intelligent, right? You know, getting this level 1 invade, I think Caps...
He's going under the tower. Caps just locked up, but the Witch comes out. Caps flashes away, Doran flashes forward, and in the end, a 1-for-1 on the bot side of the map.
Yeah, this Soraka ulti making a big difference there, buying the time for him to be able to trade back that kill, and I say that's a G2 favorite as well. You'll take a kill on the Azael for a kill on the Ksante pretty much any time. G2 now trying to clear vision up here around that top side, looking to potentially fight around that Herald, but it may be too late. We'll see if Gen.G want to force it or if it's going to just despawn.
I mean, both Caps and Doran do have the TP. They'll be up in 12 and 13 seconds respectively.
As you rightly said, Medic, but I think that G2 are going to concede this, and I think in the same way that Gen.G were willing to concede early dragons in game 1, G2 is saying, you know what, Aurelion Sol isn't strong enough to fight yet. Kennen, while getting there, is, now has completed his second item. So after the Herald has been secured, I imagine that G2 is going to feel a lot more comfortable, but this is just an example of Doran showing his strength in the side lane. The Ksante, why it's such a strong pick. there's very little that a mage can do. You talked about the Soraka heal, buying enough time for Caps to flash away at the last second, which means that Doran had to commit his flash to get the kill. If he hadn't committed the flash, there's a chance that the Rylai's slow would have actually been enough to lock him underneath the tower, and Caps secures a trade back kill.
And of course, getting the flash out of Ksante like that protects Hansama in the next fight you have, because you know he can't just flash all out Hansama across the wall. Instead, he has to walk through the Rylai's, the zone control from the Aurelion Sol.
Absolutely, and Gen.G have got to be certain when they take the next fight that it's a winning one, because if you take a fight and give 400 stacks cash in there to the Draven, he is going to be absolutely out of control, and the Jinx will have such a difficult time coming back from that to have that effectiveness in the game. So Gen.G have got to make sure when they go for Hans, they do not miss.
Chovy, though, is strong. 2 items fully completed. He is by far and away the leading gold earner for Gen.G, and he needs to be the primary carry. Sitting in the side lane right now, of course, has the TP. Looking to push in another wave. Dragon spawned at around 1:40. Baron is now on the cards. I don't expect either team to rush an early Baron. But in terms of river control, once again, heavily in favor of Gen.G.
Yep, absolutely. And while Chovy is very strong, Hans goes back to base. He hasn't matched in itemization. He's not going for the Gale Force, which honestly, I didn't feel like it really did anything in that previous game. You know, he is going for more standard. It is going to be the Kraken Slayer, BT. And he's going to be doing a lot of damage, and it will help him to punch through even people like Doran, who is going to be very, very tanky on that Ksante.
For the moment, 20 minutes in, about 1,000 gold between the two teams, a Dragon apiece as well. And we can look at compositions to say G2 favor, but we've seen Gen.G in this sort of position be able to close out a game. Their team fighting is impeccable, and it seems like G2 want to perhaps look for one of those team fights. They're setting up vision around the top side right now, Dragon up in 47 seconds.
I mean, just huge props as well to G2 after what was a stomp in Game 1 and Game 2, 20 minutes in Game 4, pretty much dead even with their opposition.
Yep.
They've found their confidence and momentum throughout this series. And this game could swing either way. You talked about comps, as you said, you still have to show that respect, though, to Gen.G. Chovy and Peyz have not been shut down. They're still in a very comfortable spot. Their farm is very good. Their itemization is coming along very nicely. And Gen.G still have a very clear win condition, even if Peanut is going to struggle to have an impact the later this game goes.
Absolutely. I mean, by no means is the game over, but 10 out of 10 times, I'd rather be playing this red side draft at this point in the game. If you could just sit down with what they have earned here, we'll see if Chovy can really make things happen. If Tristana gets that perfect fight, you can find the resets. You can really take over. But I do think it's going to be so difficult for Peyz. You just drop the Azael upgraded ultimate on Peyz every single fight. He's got to pretty much retreat straight up. And you can have Broken Blade looking for the flanks. You have the ulti from Hans as well that can come across on that. So there's actually a lot of backline access there that can be really tough for him to deal with.
Seems like G2 want to just keep scaling. They've given up any prio around this Dragon. The Rift Herald was used as well. Doran TPs into the mid lane. That tier 1 has already fallen, so this is a Rift Herald push for the tier 2. Doran dashing forward as well with the Pathmaker. They really want to make sure that this charge comes in.
Well, and you can see there was no vision for G2 on that bottom side, and they have got to take a really good fight, because while it is...
they're going to look. Comes up, they look for Peyz, the cleanse away. The Falling Star comes out as well, and Peyz is stunned, but he's able to escape. The Whirling Death finds its mark, and now Chovy has the dash. Broken Blade flashes forward with the Slicing Maelstrom. Doran trying to do what he can as well with the All-Out. Broken Blade is low. Hansama trying to open up on Peanut down towards the bottom side of the fight, but the Entopia strikes on Caps will lock him up, and Chovy continues to dish out the DPS. G2, a man down right now, push forward, but they can't find anything more.
What looked like a good fight initially for G2 ends in disaster as they heavily overcommit to the play. Chovy does a great job of creating space between him and G2 as Broken Blade invested so much to try and lock him down that G2 then ended up splitting apart. The idea was very promising. The initial execution was good, but Gen.G walk away the victors.
Yeah, they do get those extra kills, but as far as gold goes, that was a 1K cash-in, I want to say. So the gold is going to be pretty much even from that, and you get so much on the Draven. He's sitting on nearly 3,200 gold. So Hansama's on 3 items.
Yeah, Hansama is 2K ahead of Peyz now, just because of that shutdown. Before that fight, they were basically even. I think it was about 300 gold between them. But Chovy is 2K ahead of Caps as well.
Yep. But, we can see the 2 items are done. And Yike, a really nice initial play here. Rejects 2, flashes in, gets the stun onto Peyz immediately as that is off screen. We can see the cleanse comes down. The Gale Force is having to be used to just try to retreat. But then the ultimate from Hans coming across. This is that backline access that I'm talking about. You don't need to auto-attack this guy, especially when you have that many stacks on the Draven. It allows you to execute from such high health.
And this is the point at which the overcommitment comes through from G2. A good exhaust onto Hans Summer as well, as Broken Blade commits the flash, commits the ultimate. A really good ulti as well came out from Chovy to just create that space between Broken Blade and the immediate man behind him. So
done.
Credit to Gen.G. They show how lethal they can still be in these fights. The gold's still very close, but as you rightly said, Infinity Edge completed. You look at the total gold. Hans Summer leads Chovy right behind Peyz and Broken Blade. Caps a little bit behind in terms of the overall gold. He has now completed his second item and he continues to ramp up, but it's been a difficult game for him sitting in the side lane as there is a constant threat on this Aurelion Sol.
Yeah, it's difficult playing side lanes. You know, as soon as you lose your mid lane turret, the game does get harder a bit on the Azael, but he has 222 stacks at 24 minutes, so he's laughing. Like, if you can get about 10 a minute, you are feeling really, really good. The ulti is going to get so big, the E is going to get so big, and we can see exactly what the execute threshold is right now on the E. And it is up to just about 11% max health. So, you know, it is really getting powerful at this point. And Gen.G are spending a lot of time playing around this Baron area. It feels like they want to try to threaten. They don't want Caps to just kind of have free time in this side lane to be able to continue stacking it up. So Chovy's trying to put on pressure, trying to use the fact that he has this BT to take a trade, even if it's disadvantageous, heal up to full. Yep. Caps doesn't have that same luxury, and just keep that push going 24/7.
Chovy does have the TP as well, so if he can chunk out Caps and then TP into a play, Caps will have the base first before he can come in with equal effective help.
This bot side of the map just completely belongs to Chovy right now, stealing away whatever camps he can find. Good vision invested on the top side, Baron River for Gen.G. Broken Blade has found Doran though. Can they convert this into a pick?
There's still a turret remaining there. Doran is chased away a little bit, but he's got Jack Show, he's got Sunfire, he's got an Aegis. I think he's pretty happy to take a few slaps in the back from Broken Blade.
But, you know, they push it back, and they are able to push up this tower here. They were potentially going to look to threaten it, but Gen.G is moving over in the river, so G2 just going to take this opportunity to try to clear out vision. They don't see Chovy on the map right now. If Chovy shows bot, potentially G2 can look for a more aggressive play up on top side to try to force a TP response or something along those lines. And they're just going to start the Baron, so they at least want to get the TP out. They are going to get the immediate TP from Chovy.
It's already down to 7,000 HP. Look at Broken Blade. He's coming round, trying to get behind Gen.G. Yike in the pit, 4,000 on it. Broken Blade gets stunned into the wall, all out, pulls him across as well. The Caps is solo. Broken Blade pops the slice of mass and the whisk coming out as well. Broken Blade trying to fight Doran down towards the bottom side, but the knockback onto Peanut actually delivers him to Broken Blade. The super mega death rocket finds its mark, and now Mickey and Caps have to try and escape with the flash into the wall by Caps. He still gets the shutdown. The skies descend, and Peanut, Peyz, and Delight try to do what they can. They get to the blast cone. Chovy opens up that shield so big. Peyz takes another, starts to get excited, and Gen.G start to get excited too. A shutdown in the top lane. Only Caps and Yike are left standing, and Gen.G are having none of that.
It's an ace for Gen.G and a Baron to boot. It's a team that you cannot afford to underestimate, and they sniffed out the flank from Broken Blade. After shutting it down, they tore G2 apart, and all of a sudden, Gen.G are in full control of Game 4.
What a team fight from Gen.G. G2 was in such a good spot, had really good angles set up, but not only does Broken Blade get actually marked on that flank, the entrance to the fight from Caps was so problematic. You know, he used that fly, but he was actually too close to Chovy, so Chovy was hitting him, and he was in range of the Baron as well. So Caps lost about 80% of his health on the entrance to that fight. You know, it was supposed to be two members from G2 coming from opposite sides, Broken Blade going in, the ulti from Azael dropped at the same time, and Hans then following up and cleaning up. But when that entrance to the fight goes so wrong, everything got very, very difficult. And look at the top of your screen. Look at Chovy hitting Caps there. 80–90% of his health lost. The wish has to be expended immediately. And then the ulti there, sure, it knocks Peanut away, but it's Broken Blade who's actually sectioned out.
It's the heal also comes through from Mickey to try and get Broken Blade to safety. They really didn't want him to expend his flash. And then Caps also failing his flash, but I think he would have died even earlier if he'd committed it. And then Chovy again sees the low health Mickey, is able to get that execute, and after getting that initial kill, it's just a cleanup for Gen.G. A very well played fight from the LCK first seed, and now with the Baron, they're sieging, and they're looking to round this series out.
I mean, it's just such a massive swing there because Peyz had been so far behind. He gets kills, he gets the Baron gold. He completed his IE off of that, and the Navori quick blades are completed for Chovy as well. So now both the marksmen spiking heavily here for Gen.G. They were in a dire spot, but they execute really, really well. It is going to be the TP flank coming here from Broken Blade. Is it the Hail Mary?
Peyz has the flash, slicing Maelstrom coming out. Peyz able to escape at the moment, but Delight's already down. Peyz can open up onto Broken Blade as they turn the fight around. The Wish coming out. Doran low, the Singularity's being used. Yike keeps Doran in the midst of it. Chovy absolutely destroys G2. They step too far forward, and Chovy stomped them into the ground.
The idea was good from G2, but Gen.G are just better. Peyz walks away with a triple kill, Chovy with the immaculate flank, and Gen.G are looking to solidify themselves as the victors in this series.
And looking to make a date with Destiny, perhaps a rematch versus T1 in the second phase. Gen.G, there was moments of doubt in the middle, but they defied and they claim the victory.
A just very well played fight from Gen.G around that Baron. It was so close, and we talked so much about how Chovy needed to be the man that stepped up, but really it was the team recognizing in that window what G2 were trying to do with the Kennen flank. They immediately shut it down. The initial damage that Chovy was able to do onto Caps, and it really did feel like that throughout the early game, Caps didn't get to have the impact of this Aurelion Sol that he wanted to.
I mean, it's a strong opening series here from Gen.G. Games 1 and 2, absolute dominance. You know, Game 3 showing some holes. Game 4, very competitive. You know, G2 definitely ramped into this